There we go. There we go. If you don't mind, could you open up your chat and put your name? Well, we'll see your name, but tell us where you're coming from, why you're here, what your connection to Michelle might be. And while we get our last few people in, we can get started. So if you don't know us, Teach the Shoah is dedicated to ensuring that the story of the Holocaust remains relevant and resonant. We are challenging ignorance and hate by telling testimony-based stories to build personal connections. That's what we are doing here. We want to build personal connections to the stories and lessons of the Holocaust among people of all generations and all backgrounds. In addition to our storytelling programs like tonight, we also have all kinds of other resources for educators and families, and you'll be able to find all of those on our website, which is teachtheshoah.org. I'm going to stop the share here so that you can listen to us. I am Tanya Wisoker. I'm a storyteller. I'm an instructor, a coach, a board member for Teach the Shoah. And tonight, our featured teller is Michelle Ultmann, who's going to wave at you. Right, wave to us, Michelle. There you go. Now, if you are on page 2 of all these slides, you can check the side of your Zoom to move from page to page if you want to look at all of our faces. Let's just check the chat for a minute. Very nice. So, our story tonight and the discussion that we're going to have at the end of it is part of a sacred tradition of storytelling. Every telling requires an audience, that's you, and every teller, which would be Michelle, together with you embraces the story. Together we listen, together we notice, and I would like you to just begin by taking just a moment, really maybe 2 minutes, to really prepare ourselves to receive this story, to notice our own feelings, listen to each other. So let's just close your eyes briefly, just for a moment. Pay attention to your breathing. Just take a nice deep cleansing breath with a slow exhalation. Notice your posture. Are your feet on the floor? Are you comfortable solidly in the chair? Maybe lift your head and stretch, straighten your spine, maybe roll your shoulders. And with each breath, you are flooding your every cell with oxygen. You're letting out the CO2 that you don't need right now. Take another couple of deep breaths in and out, and breathe and release. And I think now we can begin our program. Okay. So tonight, our coffee house will highlight one person's story, but I think you're going to see how one person's story can impact so many other people's stories. We're going to listen to a story of the Holocaust from Michelle, and we will then have time to appreciate the story and her telling. And Michelle will have some time to tell us about her process, to share with us some photos, and you will have a little bit of time to answer questions as well. I do want to remind you that these are Holocaust stories. Everyone reacts differently to Holocaust stories, so give yourself space and grace as you listen. Set aside anything there that's going to distract you and just lean in and listen with your whole self and hear the story as we tell it. Lynn, do you see Deborah on there?
Yes, it's a double.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. So, Michelle Ultmann. She is a child of Holocaust refugees from Germany and from Austria. Michelle was a pediatrician, and she practiced for 32 years in a suburb of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania and raised her daughters there. They are 32 and 27 years old. Sorry if I shared that, girls, if you didn't want me to say that. After retirement, Michelle participated in improv. She joined Toastmasters and then she found storytelling. Michelle has used all of those skills and used those to develop and tell her mother's story. And she says her mission is to reach as many people as possible to tell this story of resilience and hope. So, our story tonight is about Ruth Erna Lichtenstein Leighton Ultmann. And her name alone, as Michelle told me, sets the stage for this story. Ruth was born in Königsberg, Germany, in 1927 on July 14th. As a young child, her family moved to Breslau near the Polish border. The events of Kristallnacht, the Nazi pogrom on the night of November 9th in 1938, changed her life. Ruth was saved from the Holocaust by the Kindertransport. This process saved 10,000 children. And after coming to the United States, Ruth practiced nursing for 50 years. She met and married John Ultmann, and she raised 3 children who she could cavell and cavell and cavell about, just enjoy them. Her 5 grandchildren as well, and 3 great-grandchildren. Okay, I think we are about ready for Michelle. I'm going to ask you all to turn your mics off while we're listening, and certainly, if you don't mind not writing in the chat while Michelle is talking, because that can be very distracting. If you need to send a message to me about something having to do with the Zoom, you can send a private message to me or even to Lynn, who you see also in to the Shoah slide down there as well. I'm going to spotlight you here. Hold on. Give me a second. Spotlight for everyone. So, Michelle is going to tell the story of Ruth Erna Lichtenstein. The story begins on November 10th in 1938, the morning after Kristallnacht, and Ruth is 11 years old. Whenever you're ready, Michelle.
Ruth woke the morning of November 10th, 1938, as if it was any other morning. She got up, got dressed, ate breakfast, packed her books, said goodbye to her mother, and headed out the door. She lived in Breslau, a town in East Germany near the Polish border. And recently she had switched schools. Her own school she was forced to leave because Jews were banned from there. It didn't mean much to her because all her friends were now in this Jewish school, and that's where she was heading. In fact, she was heading to meet her friend Renata, who she met every day in the town square. She approached the town square. She didn't see her friend. But as she looked for her, over to the left, the glass windows of all the businesses owned by Jews were smashed, and the glass was strewn across the square. To the right, the synagogue was burning. An old man got up from the steps of the synagogue, raised his hand high in the air, and yelled at her, "Go home! Go home now! You are not safe!" Without another word, she turned and ran all the way home, and ran up the stairs to her apartment and through the door and into her mother's arms. When she looked up into her mother's eyes, she saw a look that she hadn't seen for a long time. It was the look that she saw in her mother's eyes even 7 years before when her father had died, a look of fright and sadness. Her mother held her and then started talking. Renata's mother called me and said, Her father had been arrested. The Nazis had come into their apartment and arrested her father. That's why she wasn't at the square, Ruthie. And you saw the synagogue and you saw the businesses. It is no longer safe for us to live here in Germany. I must do what I can to leave. And that's what she did, starting the next day, going from one embassy or business to another, trying to find a way out. But all the doors were closed. She could not find a way out for both of them. But she did hear about something called the Kinder Transport. England had passed legislation that permitted children ages 5 to 17 years old to travel unaccompanied, all alone, from Germany, Austria, Czechoslovakia to England for safety during this conflict. Her mother must have looked into her heart and felt the pain, but knew that to save her daughter, she would have to enroll her in the Kinder Transport and send her away for safety. And that's exactly what she did. She applied, paid the fees, and after a few months, the papers came and the date was set, June 5th, 1939. 3 days before that train, they traveled to Berlin, where the train was leaving from. Her mother sat Ruth down in the hotel room and said, "Ruthila, I have to tell you something. Look at this card. You're going to wear this card around your neck so that people can identify you. But look at it." Ruth looked down and looked at it. She saw her father's name, Fritz. But then she looked over at the line that covered her mother, and the name was Erna there. Not the name of her mother, who was Ruth, the same name as she. And she said, "I don't know who Erna is. Who is Erna?" And her mother said, "Erna died giving birth to you. I married your father and am your stepmother." Ruth went mute at this point, not something commonly associated with her, but she went mute. And for the next 3 days, she thought about it. She realized the love which her mother had shown her and the warmth of their relationship. And she knew that this was her mother and how much she loved her. 3 days, not one word of this had been discussed before. And in 3 days, under the pressure of leaving, she managed to think this through and come to a form of balance. The next day, they headed for the train station in Berlin. It was crowded, it was noisy, and lots of children were crying. Ruth had the slightest bit of adventure. Let me explain. She was traveling with a different friend, Hannelore, kind of a girl's adventure. She had a sense of adventure, and her mother and her had talked for months that when she got there, she would look for a job for her mother that would bring her over safely. So she had it in her heart that her mother will come soon. And that is what she left with. But the sense of adventure certainly was dampened as the train pulled out of the station. And her mother got smaller and smaller and smaller. She did not know at that time that that was the last that she would see of her. She perished. She was sent east and perished in the Holocaust. What she did know at that time was sitting right in her compartment. A 5-year-old, maybe 4, but a little girl was crying her eyes out. And Ruth reached across the compartment, pulled her onto her lap, and they held each other all the way to Holland, comforting each other at that time. At the border of Holland, the Nazis got on the train. They were very scary in their dark uniforms and their weapons. But in her particular car, nothing particular happened, though later she heard that in other cars, special items like dolls and violins had been taken. They crossed the border, and the Quaker women met them. The Quakers were integral to the safety of the children at every stage of this trip. And they served sandwiches and hot chocolate. The sandwiches weren't of much interest to Ruth, but the hot chocolate. She held the cup in her hand. She smelled the delicious smell, and she savored every drop. And her love of chocolate would persist her whole life. Once they were finished with that, the Quakers put the children on the ferry that crossed the English Channel, landed in Harwich, England, trained down to the Liverpool station in London. And there they were ushered into a big, cold room where, sitting with the badge across their necks, people who had signed up to take care of the incoming children would claim them. Ruth had to wait a little while, and then Mrs. Livingston presented herself. The first thing to note was she spoke very fast, and she spoke in English. And truly, Ruth did not understand hardly anything. They'd had a little bit of English, but not at this rapid rate. But through the gestures, she understood, "You're coming with me. I'm Mrs. Livingston." And they went to their home. She met Mrs. Livingston's husband and felt comfortable because he was a doctor. 2 of their children didn't live there. They were older, and one was, in fact, medical school. These were the daughters. But the son, Colin, 14 years old, did live there. He served an important role, helping to teach my mother, Ruth, English. The only problem was he taught her words that a young lady should not be speaking. But she took those lessons in. Just as she was adjusting, 3 months later, in early September, they traveled to the Lake District for a late summer vacation. Poland was invaded by Germany and war was declared. And Mrs. Livingston was frightened about taking her charge back to London because it was common knowledge that eventually London would be bombed. She stated in this hotel lobby, "I have this charge from Germany and I cannot take her back to London. Who can take care of her?" A woman stepped forward, Mrs. Willis, and without checking or knowing, Ruth had to again switch homes to Mrs. Willis. She was an older woman, had a very nice house, and Ruth again slowly adjusted. But then something very significant happened. She was going to school, and the brother of a employee, a teacher, invited her to check out the chicken coop. Ruth, being very curious, went with him. While in the coop, he leaned in, held her, and planted a very deep kiss on her lips. She sensed something wrong immediately, pushed him away, and ran out. But she was consumed by fear that she had gotten pregnant. She didn't know anything about the facts of life. Certainly nothing had been discussed. during the difficult times in Germany. So, out of abundance of caution, she told the kitchen crew about this fear. They, of course, talked to Mrs. Willis. Mrs. Willis called her in, was very angry, and blamed her for this incident, and contacted the agency and had her changed to a different location. At that next location, she was up at 4 and 5 in the morning, milking cows and delivering milk. And by this time, someone had come on the scene. The best friend of her mother, and I will continue to refer to her as her mother, as she thought about it. The best friend of her mother, named Suzanne Rosenthal, had made it to Germany. She had only needed one visa, and despite living very well in Germany, had signed on to be a kitchen help in a home in London. That's how many people got out of London, out of Germany. So she began to pay attention to the placements and got her out of that home. The next home, Ruth really loved because she was taking care of a baby. The woman had 5 kids, and the husband had just been called to war. And Ruth loved this baby Nigel, and that's all she did was take care of him. Suzanne got a hold of that and asked for another placement. She was placed in a boarding school called Stotley Rough. This boarding school had been founded by 2 German Jewish immigrants, 2 women. There were many children there who had experienced the same things she had experienced, who spoke German and other languages and had been learning English. And she just took roots there. She felt comfortable and fed and rested and could begin her studies and did really well. She graduated and continued in caring for other people because she had decided to apply to nursing school. She applied to Charing Cross, a very respected nursing school in London, and got in and started her studies. Let's leave her there studying and travel to America, New York City to be precise, where her father's sister, otherwise known as her blood aunt, had made her way out of Germany via Mozambique, Africa, and was in New York City. She was attending a party, and behind her were younger kids talking about Ruth this and Ruth that. She turned around and, speaking to them, said, "I have a niece named Ruth. Who are you talking about?" It turned out to be her niece. She immediately got to work for the applications and the papers to bring Ruth to the United States. Ruth got the news of that, was very excited, and also received news from Susanna, who in rather strict German tones said, "You are finishing nursing school because once you get to America, you are not coming back." And she finished nursing school. On August 27th, 1949, about 4 years after the war had ended, she boarded the New Amsterdam and sailed to New York. 10 years had passed. I see her, 2 suitcases, one in each hand, going down the gangway, exiting the ship. Her head pointed straight forward along with her eyes, ready to take on anything which came her way. Look what she had experienced: separation from home, loss of her mother, numerous placements. It had made her very strong, very resilient, and she was going to take on whatever came her way as she started her life in New York City.
Wow, Michelle. Everybody, just take a moment to sit with this story. Michelle. I'm going to take you off spotlight, and I hope you'll allow me to give you some appreciations.
Thank you very much, of course.
Oh, great. Great. Well, first of all, I appreciate how much work you put into this story. I know how much research you did and how you pulled all of these different pieces of her life together to get to this narrative about hope and resilience. I could feel Ruth's anxiety when she's getting on the train. And when you showed her hugging, fiercely hugging that little girl on the train, I could just see how important that moment was to her, like with the chocolate as well. And I really like how you ended with the whole point of this strength, with her poised on the gangplank, getting off the boat and kind of summing up the whole story in that moment of her with her two suitcases ready to move forward. It was just beautiful. Yasher Koach, Yasher Koach. Whew. So everybody, this is what we do at Teach the Shoah. We listen to a story and we give some appreciations. And what I'd like to ask you to do is one of two things. One is raise your hand, your virtual hand or your real hand, so that I can call on you to say a few words of appreciation for Michelle, or to write in the chat. I do copy the chat and give it to the teller so that she can see all the lovely things that you have to say for her. But it's also nice to hear your thoughts in real time. So I can only see hands on page one, but if you would like to, you can just speak up right now and say Michelle, and then I'll call on you. Somebody will have something to say, surely. I'm going to start with
Hey, good.
Jennifer.
Oops. Hi, thank you so much, Michelle. Oh my gosh. So the moments, as Tanya mentioned, many of them, there's just these moments that will forever stay with me. Some I've heard you tell before, some I have never heard before. And that really sucked the breath out of me, some of these moments. The ones that are really like just really staying with me, which I did know, but the way you said, who is Erna? That here she is and she's having to take in this information. Not only is she losing her mom, but she's gaining this information that is so intense. And for this young child to have to process that, the way you held the space for her as she held that space to take in that information in those few short days and making a decision. This is my mother, who of course she was. And these certain lines, like when her mother said, "It is no longer safe to live in Germany," as she held her that day. And there's this line where you say, "All the doors are closed." And yet your grandmother knows all the doors are closed, but she knows there's still a door open for her daughter, your mom. And that was just so painful to feel like the doors closing in, the gates closing for her, but she was going to make sure that her little girl, got out. So I could really feel that. And when Susanna says, you're going to finish nursing school, it was like her mom was speaking through her friend. You've got to do this. You've dealt with all this crazy stuff, been shuffled from home to home to home. You've made it this far. You're going to go to that new America and you're going to have a career and you're going to help people and you're going to make something of all this. And as Tanya said, like holding those suitcases, keeping herself in balance as she did all along. Thank you, Michelle, for the gift of this story.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Would anybody else like to share something? Dev, go ahead. unmute yourself.
Michelle, I'm so deeply moved by how much love you poured into sharing your family legacy with us. How much I'm sorry, I've lost my voice. How much heart comes through in the descriptions that you have offered us. I feel, like when I read a story about the kinder transport, it's so far away. And when you recount it with the way that you put your emphasis on your words, you're just bringing it so close. And I feel immensely grateful to witness you in this role of being a story weaver for us and for sharing the intimacy of her strength and what she has given to you and your entire clan, your whole family. It's really a gift to be able to be here. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you, Deb. Gabriella, would you like to speak?
Oh.
Can you unmute your mic? That's the one thing I can't do is unmute people. And I don't know how to tell you how to do it on your phone, actually, although Michelle probably does.
Tanya,
Gabriella, are you on your phone?
Tanya, if you hit ask to unmute on
Oh,
her
it'll make
three
it big
dots,
for her?
it will make it big for her and she'll see it.
Oh, there you go. Let's see. Thank you, Jennifer. Maybe.
Did that work?
Yes. Beautiful.
Oh. Well, I've known Ruth for 20 years, probably a little more. And to me, it was she was one of these people that just exuded friendliness, and you could there was no question that she was the real human being that you saw in front of you, that there was nothing artificial, nothing made to look different than what it was. She was the genuine thing. And hearing the story, to me, this is remarkable that someone has the ability and the willingness and the strength to always find the good in people, which is sometimes so easily overlooked when you to me she's a role model, always will be.
Thank you,
Thank
Gabriella.
you.
Glad you could be here.
Gabriella, that was lovely. That was lovely. Oh, and Monica's sending thumbs up, which is great. Is there another comment? I think we have time for another one or two. I can't tell if you're waving unless you wave vigorously. Sarah?
Oh, I was just gonna say hi, Mom, and that
Ah,
I'm very proud of you. I know this is one of your first bigger ones since Omi passed, so I understand that there might be some more emotion behind this, and I'm appreciative that you're sharing the story and that other people can hear how amazing Omi was.
May I
Thank
make
you,
a comment
sweetheart.
as
Yes,
another
Monica.
sister, as a sister? Michelle, you did a wonderful job. And hearing the story just a few months after Mom has passed away makes it so poignant. Our mom not only was a huge influence for us in the immediate family, but we saw, as Gabriella said, the model she was to her friends and to patients she cared for. And that's what Michelle described is a legacy we are so blessed to be left with. And you just brought it to life, Michelle. And I was sorry that you left out one comment, if you don't mind my bringing it up, because I really think it says a lot about our mom, our Omi, and our great Omi, which was when her mom told her that Erna was her biological mom. She thought about it. And just prior to leaving, she said to her mom, I must come from a different plant.
In German, of course.
In German, I must come from a different plant. I think of that and I think about the trauma. And yet, as Gabriella said, she could see the positive in everything she did. So thank you, Michelle. That was truly wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Monica. I think I'll get Ernesto's and then we'll move on to some of the discussion that Michelle wants to have. Ernesto, now I just lost where you went. Where did he just go?
He's
I'm
there.
I'm here.
Okay, there you go. Do you want to speak?
So first of all, thank you, Michelle. That was truly wonderful, well related. Um, I knew your mom. Gosh, I'm going to date myself, but maybe 60 years, maybe more. And talk about a woman who was kind and empathetic and yet so strong and willful. She was truly amazing. And I think, Michelle, you just brought this out perfectly well. Um, she is a role model. She's one of these. I mean, was a rare woman who combined so many fantastic attributes. Um, there are too many stories that I could tell about my relationship with her. But Michelle, you said it all. A wonderful woman, and I certainly will never forget it and forget her until I start forgetting things.
Oh, that's so sweet. I know Hannah wanted to say something, and I'm going to bring a slide up with some photos, Michelle, but let's hear what Hannah has to say. Can you unmute, Hannah? Maybe. Let's see.
Mute. Okay. I feel very blessed to have been part of the listening group. I think that although I knew your mother for many years, I had no idea about her background and what courage and resilience she had in her young life, and that she brought all that with her to the United States and continued with a wonderful life, helping people and being a friend to everybody, whether it's her family, her friends, or her patients, or colleagues for that matter. Michelle, you did a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannah. Michelle, I hope you're breathing all of this in, all these lovely comments about your telling, about how you created the story, how you crafted the story, and about your mother as well. I'm going to bring up one of your pictures if you're okay with that. I think I need to switch pages, but let's get it to this page and then I'll switch pages. Okay, so this is a good time for Michelle to talk a little bit about how she created this program, as well as about her mother. You're muted, Michelle.
Got it. I am so filled with warmth from everyone. I'm looking out at family, friends, co-storytellers, teachers. It's just so wonderful to have you all here. And as my sister mentioned, I was going to say we lost mom at the end of the year. And it's so different telling her story now. There's more urgency. And I'm so proud that I have it ready and I can honor her. And I've noticed that word in the chat. The picture I'm showing is her father and her birth mom, her father Fritz and birth mom Erna. I just love looking at their faces. Next, this is Ruth and Ruth. The stepmother's name was Ruth. I called her mother throughout the story. They had a very close relationship. It's kind of funny. The only time that mom felt friction was when that Susanna came to visit, the Susanna I mentioned. And basically, mom was sent to the kitchen because the two women had a lot to talk about, coffee clutch type thing. So she often told that story. And I'm just proud the person, Ernesto, who spoke, is a descendant of this Suzanne. And Susanna eventually was my grandmother. So there's just family has many definitions, and we have many connections that we call family. Next. The only hint that mom had, but she never asked questions about it, who would, she was so proud that she had 3 sets of grandparents. The two people below are her birth mother's parents. The one woman cradling her is her father's mother. And the 2 other people holding hands with her are her stepmother's parents. But as far as she was concerned, she was just felt special. She had 3 sets of grandparents and nobody else did. No questions, no discussion. So, remember I talked about that thing that she held around her neck? On my left, I don't know where it's coming up, the 2 part, the stamp is Harwich, June 6th. I'll talk about that. And the blow up part is where you'll see that there is her father's name, and my Tanya's helping us, Fritz, but Fritz Walter, but who is Erna, my mother asked. Who is Erna? And I absolutely appreciate my sister adding that story. I had strict instructions to keep it to a length, and I do this a lot with school students and to introduce German, Ich komme auseinander in Pflanze. It just was something that got cut. So, Monica, thank you for adding that back in. It's a beautiful part. Next. Credit my sister with finding these. Just searched Stotely Rough, and there is the building. And this picture is simply on their site, but please, from our right, find the checkered skirt and the person sitting standing next to her, next to the boys, is mother. Right there on the site, picture of her at school.
Michelle, that wasn't an actual picture in your mother's photo album, correct?
This was us doing some research maybe a few years ago, and I think Monica just went on the site and said, look what I found.
And there was your mom.
And there was my mom.
Incredible. Incredible.
Before, you don't have to go back, but on a 80th anniversary trip with the Kinder Transport, I actually found my way to the school, and it's now a private residence, but they have a plaque up on it. And I just stood there a while, feeling what I could feel. Next one. Well, look at this woman, just so beautiful, with her badge from Sharon Cross. And she's graduating from the nursing program. And so many of her pictures, the reason I talked about her eyes getting off the ship, you can see it. Just have a moment here. Just look at her, just looking forward. That's what I was trying to describe. And here it is in a picture before she left. Next. 2 things have gotten on this. I'm going to take one at a time, but no, that's okay. This is basically some research I did. I just put in the ship and the people on the ship that she took to the USA is there, and it's too small to really see, but Ruth is there. Perhaps for just a couple seconds, I'll give her story, her name justice, and why it's what it is. So we were at Ruth Erna. which she was named for her mother, who passed, and Lichtenstein, her last name. Why was she Leighton? In England, the English patients pronounced her Lichtenstein, which doesn't sound very bad, except if you know German, it means tombstone. And my mother did not want to be a nurse whose name was Tombstone. So she went to a phone booth, literally, took out a phone book, went to the L's to preserve that, and chose the first name Leighton. And it's apparently rather easy at something called a deed poll, Poll, to change her name. Ruth Erna Lichtenstein Leighton. Ultmann would come in New York City, where a certain John Ultmann was dating her supervisor. And she made the mistake, I would say, of being open-hearted and told Ruth, who was working under her, I know someone who speaks your language. Well, she wasn't dating John Ultmann for very long, and that's how my parents met, and that's the history of the last name. Thank you. Next. So there goes Monica getting on and finding the pictures. There goes me getting on and finding the ship listing. Things happen even 80 years later. And what you're looking at is a very young researcher, Dr. Amy Williams, was researching. Lynn is my historian, and I'm hesitating a second because I don't know if it was in Dutch country or in Yad Vashem. I think it was in a Dutch country. And she reaches in and pulls out documents that have never been seen. And we now have listings of all trains. And she welcomes emails. I email her and I get this listing back. And Tanya has been kind enough to put the arrow by Ruth Lichtenstein. It's followed by Hannelore Sirag, her friend. And it gave me complete shivers. I don't know if it's the one. I don't know if they filed in according to this list, but the person below her is 4 years old. You can tell that from the birth date. And so I like to name, sorry, I'm getting old too. Her name is Hannah Neyman. And I've done some internet searching and I haven't found any descendants. It's it's a lot in the Scandinavian countries, but no news. But this was recent, and there's her train. It brings out one last facet. She always told us that she traveled on June 6th. And indeed, the Harwich is stamped June 6th. This train left on June 5th. She never spoke about that. Next. Many people who speak in the Holocaust subject area call this their victory picture. And indeed, I would like to, Lynn is providing information on Dr. William. Thank you. I would like to introduce you. In the middle there is my father, John Ultmann. In the pretty jacket sitting is my mother, Ruth Ultmann. Right behind my dad, the tall individual, is my brother. And to his right is my older sister, that's my younger brother, her husband, her 2 children. And on my side is the father of Lisa, who is beautifully here, and Sarah, who's also here. And they are now much older. But this is a wonderful photo, and the last photo we have of everyone because my dad passed in 2000 after the 75th birthday celebration. Next.
Victory indeed.
Look at those eyes again. This is a photo taken by my sister. Look at those hands. I don't know if it's just me, but I just want to impart to you the energy with which she is sort of leaning forward. She's always heading somewhere. There's not much rest for the weary, and she's ready to take on still whatever comes her way. This is a pretty recent photo, and we love it, on the University of Chicago campus. I think that's the last picture.
That is the last, but I'm going to show one thing and then you are going to take some questions. So I want
some questions, but also it's very small because a little bit you've heard from the pictures of the process, but I just want to say that coincidentally with retiring from pediatrics, my mother needed more care. And if you took a drone and flew across the highways from Pittsburgh to Chicago, I think you'd see a ditch, which I have dug by going back and forth because she needed more and more care. And we were blessed with two beautiful providers taking care of her. And I believe one is in attendance. Thank you very much, Sandra. And I needed to take care of her. I needed to do the business, and we all took care of her. But I was doing the business of the house. And one day I was looking through 6 boxes to find something. And my father, who is very organized, not uncommon Germanic trait, as I went through the files, there was one lying incorrectly, flat. I said, Dad, what are you doing? And I reached in, and it was a lot of his information. And I said, Dad, are you going to have one in this box? Because I think it's Mom's box. And indeed, he did. And it was so much of her history that actually permitted my children and I to gain German citizenship. And it also led to that as Mom became more senile, I knew her story was going away, and there had to be a voice telling it. And I had done improv and led into Toastmasters and led into storytelling. And some of my very special teachers are here. And so I dedicate this to so many people who have been a part of my life. Um, and that's how the story came. It was slow in evolution and delivered to you from the heart.
Well, Michelle, thank you. And you're really, I'm going to pull this down. What I wanted people to see was exactly what you just said, that these stories come from actual sources. It can be sources from your own family member or a friend. It can be sources from a book or a recording, a video transcript, or something like that. Every single person here can do what we do, even if you don't have a direct descendant or rather ancestor in your family that was involved in the Holocaust. The process that Michelle took, um, certainly the caring for her mom was the special part, but the rest of it, taking some facts and taking some experiences and then putting them together into a narrative that is engaging and compelling, that is what we do, and that's what you can do as well. Thank you again, Michelle, for sharing the story and sharing how you developed it. I'm so glad that we get to honor your mom's memory with you tonight. I want to just give a couple more little bits of business before we close out. This is part of the Teach the Shoah team. We actually have over 100 storytellers that have taken our classes, just like you all could do. And this is just people who decided to become part of this project, making the voices of those who experienced the Holocaust a part of the future. And I also would like to tell you that your stories could be liberators. It could be children of survivors, and it could also be victims, people who did not survive, but left behind diaries or letters or had testimony written about them. We, of course, would love you to join us for another coffee house, for another teller. The next thing coming up in June might be something some of you might want to do, to take our 6-week class, the same class that Michelle took, the same class that I took, to learn how to do this. And you will be getting emails with all this information in it, so you don't have to be copying down all of the URLs into your piece of paper right now. You definitely will be able to hear from us. We very much appreciate you. I can put a little bit of stuff into the chat because it is in my normal practice to do so, but I quite understand that people aren't all interested in clicking on lots of things in the chat. You can check out our videos on YouTube. Michelle herself has two, three, Michelle, four by now.
I have no idea, to be honest.
Several of them, and I think you'll find those very interesting, and it's very rewarding to watch them. I also want to tell you that we do these sessions for you at no cost because our goal is to give as many people as possible the chance to directly engage like this with Holocaust stories, both as listeners and as storytellers. And we certainly appreciate donations as you could imagine, and I will put that link in here. You can click on links in the chat, and then they'll just stay open in your on your computer. Yeah. So I also want to say that our executive director isn't here tonight, but our director of Holocaust scholarship is here, and that is Lynn, who is somewhere on your screen in a little white box like mine. So Lynn might have something to say. I don't know. And if not, it is 9:02, and we'll probably let everyone scamper off to a lovely evening of sleep. Lynn, you took your mic off. I know you want to talk.
I just want to say thank you to Michelle. That was absolutely fantastic. I love the historical background that you brought in to your longer version of the story. And of course, all the documents. That gets a historian excited. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you everyone for joining us. Please do stay in touch with us. You can register for our newsletter if you go onto our website. Come join us, programs, workshops, classes.
It's a very good community.
It is.
Very good.
Thank you, everybody, for coming from all parts of the world and from all connections to my mother and to us. It was just so beautiful to talk to all of you. Thank you, Tanya, for your help.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Michelle. I'm so honored to be able to do this with you and to see your family here listening to the stories of their Omi, or as mine would say, Omama, because she wanted to be a little different.